Today we're going to do a very short video on how to make mast hoops. So the first thing you need is a nice piece of wood, darker the better I find, but it needs to be a piece of wood that when you shave it with a plane you get nice clean pieces. You want the piece of wood that you're shaving to have the grain running along it with no real imperfections in it, because you're going to be slicing these pieces along the side, and you want to make sure that the grain is running in this direction. This is a piece of Caribbean mahogany that I'm going to cut. You need a plane with a very sharp blade, and you need a very fine entry because you want to make the shaving as thin as possible. From these shavings, you want to get some nice thin long pieces, the longer the better, because you want to make at least 2, maybe 3 wraps on whatever you're using to determine the size of your hoop. This is what we are attempting to make. These are laser cut pieces. So let's come to our shaving. And the first thing you want to do is to cut it, square it off. In a perfect world, you would want to sand the edge down. I tend to do that afterwards. The next thing I do is put some wax, mold release wax is what I use, on the pipe because I don't want anything to stick on it. So simply rub it down quite liberally, and then I put a piece of wax-proof paper and wrap it on the pipe, again very tight, and I'll put some masking tape on the end. I've been having some problems with the wax paper still sticking on the inside of the ring. So I again liberally put some more release wax on the paper, simply to make it easier to get it off. Now we wrap, holding very tight and trying to keep it all on itself. So I've got at least 2.5 wraps, and then we just use a clamp or anything you want just to hold the end down while you stick it. This is instant CA, and I liberally coat it. Leave that to dry, and when you take it off, this in fact is what you will get. So we would put the pen sander and clean it up, and then I actually put it on the lathe and sand it to get a nice round shape. And we do that on time-elapse. Just touching up with some CA. And as you can see, I've got a nice clean round surface, so I can put this on the pre-arc and cut it into pieces. I've set the pre-arc based on a previous size that I determined, and so now we just slice the individual rings off. And that's what we get. And we use a internal sander to clean the inside, being very gentle. And now we have a perfect hoop for the mast. I'm using some marine varnish, simply because I have it left over from my boat and I want a really hard varnish finish when I'm finished. And then once they're varnished, I put them out on a little aluminum piece to dry. I've coated this in wax so that it doesn't stick to the piece, just to minimize the cleanup afterwards. These are the rings that will replace the brass rings that were supplied with the constructor kit for my scratch build model with some nice wooden mast hoops. So I'll see you in my next video.